Let's remember that guided by the Holy Spirit, the purpose of First Congregational United Church of Christ in Elgin is to seek God's truth, practice Christ's teachings, and love others unconditionally. God is still speaking. Are you listening?
Abound. Good morning. We will now do the call to worship. Please stand. We come, for God gathers us here with that community called faith, where the hungry are served first, where the thirsty drink life's water. We come, for God welcomes us here into that home called grace, where they ask in robes of hope, where the stranger is embraced as the long-lost prodigal. We come, for God reunites us here, sisters and brothers in that family called love, where the imprisoned model justice, where the sick are cradled in God's peace. We come, for God is here. Now the kids will please come up to the altar area, please.
soul, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love with all my soul. Channel of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me bring your love. Where there's injury, your pardon, Lord. And where there is doubt, true faith in you. Oh, Master, grant that I may never see so much to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love with all my soul. Make me a channel of your peace. When there's despair in life, let me bring you home. When there is darkness, only light. And where there's sadness, ever joy. Make me a channel of your peace.
Please join me in our litany of worship. Your love, Jesus, is an active love, engaged, involved, immersed.
Love, Jesus, is seen as what you do, not just in what you say. In the blessing of children, in the meals with outcasts, in the touching of the tortured, in your presence, in your self-giving love for those who need it most.
And your love, Jesus, is expressed through people like us.
As we share our wealth in simplicity and generosity, as we share wholeness in care and healing of the sick and the broken. Share hospitality by being truly present to the lonely, imprisoned, and marginalized.
As we share peace and kindness, listening and acceptance with those who challenge us, confront us, and threaten us. As you have loved us in incarnate action, Jesus, may we learn to be little incarnations through whom your love is expressed and experienced in action. Amen.
Can we invite the children to come up, please?
Just a reminder that today is family worship, and so you'll be worshiping with your families today, but it is so good to see all of you here. and you're going to enjoy hearing about all the things the youth did today.
Good morning, children. How can we serve others? Anybody tell me how we can serve others? Anybody else? Yeah, somebody raise their hand. You can serve their drinks, yeah? Yes, Liam?
Or you could help them.
Yeah, you can help them. Anybody else? Come on. Yes, Liam?
Share with them.
Yeah, you can share with them. Anybody else? What are some jobs that people have where they can serve or help others? Yes, Sam? Unload the dishwasher? Okay. Savannah? Firefighter? Gardener? Yes, Kaden? Serve the homeless?
Pull out weeds.
Pull out weeds? Yeah, you can help with community service. Natalie? Yeah, a nurse. Anybody else? Amanda?
First responders.
First responders. Ricky? Police officer. Firefighter.
Army.
How can you help others? Leo?
I can give stuff.
You can give stuff.
You could, you could help pick up people's stuff when you drop it.
Help people with stuff in the hall and when they drop it. Chloe? Volunteer in the soup kitchen.
When you're done with your meal, you could put your dishes by the sink.
Yeah. Or in the sink, yeah. Anybody else? William, do you have anything? Okay, just making sure.
Throw
Yeah.
things away. You could throw garbage away with wrap, candy wrappers.
Candy wrap? Yeah, you can throw stuff away. Yes, Amanda?
When somebody is hurt, you can go get the nurse.
Yeah, when someone's hurt, you can go get the nurse, yeah. Anybody else? No?
All right, so we're going to be doing closing in this short little children's sermon. So please bow your heads and repeat after me. By helping other people, no matter who they are, you are showing them love. And respect like Jesus did. You are shining your light. Amen. Now return to your families, little children.
Before I come.
Thank you.
Our first reading today comes from the Gospel of me. I jest, of course. From the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 25, verses 35 through 40. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. I was naked, and you gave me clothing. I was sick, and you took care of me. I was in prison, and you visited me. Then the righteous will answer him, Lord, when was it that we saw you hungry and gave you food, or thirsty and gave you something to drink? And when was it that we saw you a stranger and welcomed you, or naked and gave you clothing? And when was it that we saw you sick or in prison and visited you? And the king will answer them, Truly I tell you, just as you did it to one of the least of these who are members of my family, you did it to me.
Our second reading is from the book of Matthew, chapter 5, verses 14 through 16. You are the light of the world. A city built on a hill cannot be hid. No one, after lighting a lamp, puts it under the bushel basket, but on a lampstand, and it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven.
There's nothing better than a choir that sings a cappella so beautifully. I love that. Thank you. Some of you may remember that 7 years ago, a mission trip group from F.C.C. first visited Washington, D.C., as we did this year, and we worked with YSOP, or Youth Service Opportunity Project, to volunteer in a variety of different organizations supporting the underserved and homeless. One of the activities that we participated in on that trip was donning a fluorescent green vest and heading out onto the sidewalks of D.C., selling 10 copies of Streetwise, the publication that's produced and sold by homeless folks. We were challenged at that time to sell the paper just as the vendors would. I can tell you that that was one of the most uncomfortable, challenging and humbling experiences that I have ever had. And so this year, when we were going to DC, I confided to Lois that I was dreading doing the Streetwise sale. But that's what these trips have been about all along, putting participants outside their comfort zone, and sometimes being those troublemakers that we heard about from this pulpit a few weeks ago. And this trip lived up to those expectations. This year, our trip to Washington had our group revisit some of those organizations from 2009, such as Martha's Table, a thrift store for clothes and home goods. SOME, S-O-M-E, which is an acronym for So Others May Eat, an interfaith pantry that serves holistically the needs of the DC homeless community. Preparing and serving a meal at YSOP at their headquarters as part of their outreach to those in need of a meal and conversation and companionship. But we also had the chance to work in new locations this year. A group called Iona Senior Services, another called Washington Parks and People, which sounds very pleasant until it's 98 in both temperature and humidity outside when you're working. Christ House, which provides transitional housing and rehab for men who have recently been released from medical care rather than putting them right back on the street. The Brethren Nutritional Program, and DC Central Kitchen, a fully equipped commercial kitchen which, with donations from DC's restaurants and hotels, and then volunteers like us assisting chefs in training, provides meals for 200 soup kitchens and food programs in the area. Now, as a side note, some of us got to make tuna cakes and then bake cakes. I snapped the ends off green beans for 3 hours. But my grandmother would be proud. But seriously, it was truly a very busy and very fulfilling week. But you may be asking, but did you sell Streetwise? Well, no, we didn't. While a different scenario than trying to peddle newspapers to a populace that suddenly has made you invisible, we instead donned our homemade shirts, gathered in front of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue with candles lit one evening, and we sang songs of peace and unity in front of a crowd of tourists. This was no less unnerving, but also powerful, just as the newspaper sale was, and just one more example of our group being thrust out of that comfort zone, but yet paling in comparison to the zone that our homeless brethren are experiencing, and for which, I am sorry to tell you, is no smaller than it was in 2009. But we hope that in many ways that week, we made a small difference in people's lives, even if it was just one meal, one conversation, or one genuine, caring smile.
Amen.
Hi guys. When we were in Washington, D.C., working with YSOP, the Youth Service Opportunities Project team, they asked all of us volunteers, the kids and the chaperones, if we would answer a question and write it down on a sheet of paper, and as though we were writing a letter to ourselves, something that we could, have as a personal, kind of almost private remembrance of how we were thinking at the beginning of the work week. The question itself was, what do you remember as your last experience with a homeless person? And so we wrote down, some of our own personal experiences with that. And then at the end of the work week in Washington, the team leader asked us the same thing. And she said, now that you've been here and worked in DC the whole week and met as many people as you met and served as many people as you were able to help in the different organizations and whatnot, how do you now feel about having worked with the homeless? And what do you feel about that experience? And so what we have here, you will see are about 6 or so individual volunteers have thankfully said that they will tape what they wrote down in their letters for you. And I think it's very heartfelt and very honest. And I hope we all learned something from it. I know I did. Thanks.
When I last saw a homeless person, I felt sadness. I was hoping that they would find food and shelter so that they could live a happy life. I start to feel bad because I complain about a lot of things that don't matter, but these people have no water, food, or shelter. After my work week in Washington, D.C., when I see a homeless person, I still feel sadness and pity. It wasn't long until I realized that they are just like me. We are all human. It's just that their life is a little different than mine. My goal is to talk to them more and not to ignore them.
As we began our work week in Washington, D.C., we stopped in a little park for our lunch, and there was a Casimir Pulaski statue there, and I remember eating my lunch there and seeing a woman with a shopping cart that seemed to hold everything that she owned. And I wondered what it would be like to walk around with a shopping cart with all my possessions. And then I found myself wondering about her story. Why was she homeless? Was she mentally ill? Had she lost her job? Was she lazy, as many people might think? And I found myself almost judging her too, wondering why she didn't just get a job or why she didn't find a way to support herself. Later I heard that Toby Underhill had given all of the spending money that he brought with him to Washington, D.C. to a homeless person. And it warmed my heart, and I thought, who am I to judge?
When I see homeless people, I feel sorry for them and wish that I could do more. I'm always thinking of what I could do to help them, but I never actually do anything. There are people just like everyone else, but they're treated very differently, and it's so unfair. After my work week in Washington, D.C., whenever I see someone experiencing homelessness, I feel very sad because there are people who know the things I do and are into the things I like to do, but they have to live in shelters and on the streets. They're exactly like each one of us. They just don't have the privileges that we do. In the next 30 days, I would like to be able to help in the soup kitchen at church so that I can make the people experiencing homelessness feel that they are people too, just like me.
hear me on this? Okay, now. You heard Brian talk earlier about when we sang in front of the White House. Early on, when we're thinking about how we can push limits with these kids and get them out of the box, and sometimes it causes them, I tell them these things that we're going to do, and they're like, oh, why do we have to do that? And I go, oh, it'll be good. You wait and see. One of those things was I had an idea about us painting T-shirts with certain sayings on them. We had ideas, like I think a couple of them can come forward. Brian has one on. His says resist, persist, insist. Liz has the truth matters. And Amanda has don't hate, heal. And so all of us had, I'm sorry to say that, mine didn't make it out of the laundry, evidently, to be worn today. But anyway, we all had them on. And we wanted to have some type of a message of love and peace as Christians, as representatives of our church. And we wanted to put some of that love back out into the community, especially in this kind of heated political time and with all the hate that's kind of, wrangling all the time. And we said, let's do something great. Let's go in front of the White House and do a kind of like a peace resistance. And Nathan, who's always on his game, says, wait, if all of us are going to be singing in front of the White House, what if we're all arrested? Who's going to bail us out? So he's always looking out for us. But I said, no, it's not going to be like that kind of resistance thing. It's just going to be a presence of peace there. And we sang some songs, and one of the songs we're going to sing for you right now, What a Wonderful World, is something that when we were practicing, we noticed that Griffin Stocksdale, with his dad Paul up on the stage here, has a wonderful voice and loves this song very much. And so he and Dad will lead us in this first stanza, and then we'll try to join in and back him up.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you. And I think to myself, wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Pretty in the sky are also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies crying, I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
religion, realer than reality television, truer than the pages of a fairy tale. It'll happily ever, never fail. It's better than your good intentions, a lot more honest than a politician. It's worth more than the money in your pocket. It won't back down, no one can stop it. Love, 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 love goes that far. Love, 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 love. So love, love, love with all your heart. You can find it where the children play, in the coffee shops and the alleyways. You can see it in the stars above, and when you think you can't, you can with love. So take it out to the weekend lonely, take it out to the outcast too. Give it away to the tired and weary. When you give it all away, it comes back to you. Love, 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 love goes that far. Love, 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 love. So love, love, love with all your heart. Yeah. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Love, love, love. This world, loving every man, woman, boy, and girl. Hung out with some folks that would make you stare, saying, come as you are, you're welcome here. Spent his whole life with the least of these, died on a cross between two thieves, and on the third day, stone rolled away. Beat back there so we could say, love, 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 love.
The last time I saw someone homeless, I felt guilty. I felt guilty because I know that there's always more I could be doing in order to help them. I felt guilty because everyone deserves the life where they don't have to wonder about where their next meal is coming from, and everyone deserves to know where they will be sleeping at night. Now, when I see someone who is experiencing homelessness, I feel guilty but content knowing their current situation does not define who they are. In the next 30 days, I want to commit to being more intentional with my actions regarding underprivileged youth in Chicago and helping them in ways they need and understanding my place.
Whenever I see a homeless person on the street, I feel like I want to help, but I am unsure how I can best do that. I always ask, should I or shouldn't I give money? Are they dangerous or unbalanced? Do they really need help, or are they just panhandling? I feel ashamed of myself for asking these questions, even when I know these are not always the case, but that's where I am right now. After my work week in Washington, D.C., I am reminded that the majority of homeless situations are out of that person's control, and that they truly need help. But it's important to seek input from those who may need assistance and allow them some choice in what they need.
The last time I saw someone homeless, I felt sad, because they probably work the hardest with what they have, but it's still not enough. I also felt sad because of the disrespect they receive daily from bystanders. After my work week in Washington, D.C., when I saw someone homeless, I felt happy, because I got to sit down and have a nice conversation with them. When I was there, I talked to a nice lady named Miss Alice. We talked for about an hour, and it was crazy because at first she seemed so different, but after talking to her, it was like she was part of our church. She really impacted my life, and I hope that I impacted hers too. Now that I'm back, I want to inform more people about homelessness and try to spread awareness and break the stigma that's been associated with being homeless.
It goes deeper than just religion, realer than reality television, truer than the pages of a fairy tale. It'll happily ever, never fail. It's better than your good intentions, a lot more honest than a politician. It's worth more than the money in your pocket. It won't back down, no one can stop it. Love, 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 love goes that far. Love, 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 love. So love, love, love with all your heart. You can find it where the children play, in the coffee shops and the alleyways. You can see it in the stars above, and when you think you can't, you can with love. Take it out to the outcast too. Give it away to the tired and weary. When you give it all away, it comes back to you. Love, 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 love goes that far.
Silent reflection and prayer as you ponder what it means to be a servant of Jesus and to live love.
There is a candle in every soul, some brightly burning and some dark and cold. And there is a spirit who brings a fire, ignites a candle and makes his own. Carry your candle, run to the darkness, seek out the helpless, confused and torn, and hold out your candle for all to see it. Take your candle, go light your world. Take your candle, and go light your world. Frustrated brother, see how he's tried to light his own candle some other way. See now your sister, she's been robbed and lied to, still holds a candle without a flame. So carry your candle, run to the darkness, seek out the lonely, the tired and worn, and hold out your candle for all to see it. Take your candle and go light your world. Take your candle and go light your world. Whose hearts are blazing, so let's raise our candles and light up the sky, praying to our Father in the name of Jesus. Make us a beacon in darkest times. Carry your candle, run to the darkness, seek out the hopeless, deceived and poor, and hold out your candle for all to see it. Take your candle, go light your world. Take your candle and go light your world. To the darkness, seek out the light. Hold out your candle for all to see it. Take your candle, go light your world. Take your candle and go light your world. Take your candle. And go light your world.
And now we come to that time when we present our gifts to God. This is for those of us who call this our church home. If you are visiting with us today, please know we are glad you are here. You are our guests.
Please join me in the prayer of dedication. God, through the offering of our gifts, may we become a more open people, open-minded in hearing your word and wisdom, open-hearted in healing a broken world, open-handed in heeding your call for enacted love. With thanks for all good gifts, we present a portion of our substance and the whole of ourselves.
Bear with us. We had a late entry video into the contest. No, but it's very moving. And if I can have the youth just sit for a second so that everybody behind you can see it, and then the youth will join on the altar in just a second.
Everyone says they see God, but in front of TV. Everyone says they're a follower, but they're playing Call of Duty. Everyone says they're a good Samaritan, but eating a bag of chips. But what you don't know is that he's watching TV with a sick, dying woman, playing Call of Duty with the amputee bed. But he's eating a bag of chips because he gave his hot dog to a homeless man. So are they true followers, or are they not?
It only takes a spark to get a fire going, and soon all those around can warm up in its glowing. That's how it is with God's love. Once you've experienced it, you spread his love to everyone you want to pass it on.
How I wish for you, my friend, this happiness that I found. You can depend on him. It matters not where you're bound. I'll shout it from the mountaintop. I want the world to know the Lord of love has come to me. I want to pass it on.
It only takes a spark to get a fire going. Soon all those around can warm up in its glowing. That's how it is with God's love. Once you've experienced it, you spread his love to everyone you want to pass it on. I'll shout it from the mountaintop. I want the world to know the Lord of love has come to me. I want to
When you leave this place today, we challenge you to speak.
To speak up for what you believe is right.
To speak up for what is not easy.
We challenge you to listen.
To listen to those who are often unheard.
To listen to those who are in need of acceptance.
We challenge you to love one another
as God has loved you. We challenge you to show compassion,
to reach out and to help another.
We challenge you to be unafraid to talk about your faith.
We challenge you to stop trying to impress others
and start trying to impress God.
We challenge you to be willing to do the unpopular thing.
We challenge you to humble yourself.
We challenge you to allow yourself to be humble.
We challenge you to avoid the path of least resistance.
We challenge you not to await opportunity,
but to find purpose and mission.
To chart a course that your potential demands.
We challenge you to find joy despite difficult circumstances.
We challenge you to believe without seeing.
We challenge you to respond with grace.
We challenge you to live a life better than you ever have before.
Go into the world today in God's grace.
Amen. And may God bless you and keep you. May God's face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May God look upon you with kindness and give you peace this day and always. Take the hand of your neighbor and let's sing together our closing benediction response.